What up? Marsh Pod, special edition Marsh Pod. We're recording this before the weekend, before the Run to One championship game. And we're talking storylines, specifically storylines, because obviously that's what is attracting of this game. Obviously, it's two great teams. They made it here for a good reason. It's some players on each side that are quite fantastic. But there are 6 storylines to me that kind of stand out. And I want to dive into each of them. 3 on both sides of the docket. Let's start with Rocky Mountain, who is a bit of a surprise run if you look at their season full scale. Not all that surprising when you start to dive into the numbers. There's 2 dates that really stand out for Rocky Mountain. It's February 27th and it's March 28th, and we'll get into why those days stand out. The story on one side is their offense has been really efficient since both of those dates, March 28th, February 27th. Justin Bell has been absolutely incredible. Since March 28th, he has not shot below 47% from the floor in a game. He's been incredibly confident. He's been incredibly efficient. He's been incredibly comfortable. He isn't forcing a dang thing. Meanwhile, Dink Pate, since February 27th, has only 3 games in which he's shot under 43%. One of them was a 30% shooting night on the 27th. Now you're saying, well, those aren't the same numbers. That's perfectly fine. The fact of the matter is, 2 of their great offensive pieces have really developed into something that you can rely on time after time after time, game after game. That's huge for why this team, the number 1 scoring offense in the league, has been that. It's not just because they have chuckers, and I don't think anyone's sitting here and saying Justin Bell's the number 1 recruit or Dink Pate is going to be. Those guys are top flight guys who I think have a very high ceiling in SimWorld U and the SWBA, but they have been incredibly efficient over the last 2 to 3 months. That cannot be discredited. On the opposite side, their defense. I talked about this very early on in the season. I said this defense was not good. They had nobody on this roster that could play defense. At the time, that was right. That is no longer the case. They have been fantastic, particularly here in the Run to One, but it extends much further than that. In the Run to One, they have allowed 68.25 points against per game. That would be the 8th best mark in SimWorld Prep for the entire season. But you're saying that's 4 games. Why should we care about that? They gave up 82 to Heartland Zombie Stars and 52 in their last one against Europe. Those are going to be major outliers that end up impacting it. All right, tip your cap, you're not wrong. But let's go back to March 28th, where they have allowed 67.5 points against per game, which would be the 6th best mark in SimWorld Prep. Okay, a little bit of an improvement there. Nearly a half a point, 3/4 of a point better. I can do you one better. Let's go back to May 1st. Let's peel it in just a little bit more. 65.1 points against over that span, which would be the 3rd best mark in SimWorld Prep behind only Philadelphia Elite and the Originators, who they're obviously going up against. They have allowed only 1 game in which a team has scored above 80 points. That was the Heartland Zombie Stars game. And only 3 games in which the opposing team has scored more than 70 points, that 80-point game included. This has been a much better defense. At a point in time when we thought this was not a good defense, you can look at their stats. I talked about it on SimWorld today on Thursday. Their stats are not good. 30th in the league in points against, 32 in opposing three-point percentage, 28th in opposing field goal percentage. Those numbers are real, but as of most recently, this defense has been completely different. Let's move on to the biggest storyline of this team, which is Josh Robinson. Okay, entering this year, the biggest question mark was, what is this team going to look like with him? Because a season ago, they were mediocre with him for the beginning of the year. Once he left, this team was completely different. They erupted onto the scene as a much better team and made a really good push towards the end of the season. Well, Josh Robinson returns, and the questions are, which version are we going to get? Is Josh Robinson actually better for this basketball team, or are they better off without him? Well, through the first couple months up to that February 27th date, the answer was they were better off without him. They were 5-11 to begin this season with Josh Robinson. Since then, 14-5, including the Run to One. All the questions about how they were better, about which version is better, those have been answered succinctly. Josh Robinson can lead a championship caliber SimWorld Prep group while also developing his guys. He's made Justin Bell more efficient. He's made Dink Pate an efficient point guard. That's going to be great for their development over the long run. That's why it's so important, especially at the prep level, and particularly in a world where everybody makes the Run to One, being able to sacrifice early season wins and losses for finding who you are, okay? Finding out, and we're going to get to it on the originators, finding out what other pieces exist on your roster that can be efficient. I think we knew Justin Bell. I think we had a good feeling about Dink Pate. But they have been so much better because they've had the opportunity to grow this roster, grow their experience, and they've had some great matchups here in the run to one. Let's move to the other side, the originators. First big question, big storyline rather, is getting right with Alyssa Dodge, okay? She has been fortunate enough to either, one, develop a superstar. She did that with Johnny Baldwin, our top recruit. Or two, she's been, I don't want to say handed, but she's been gifted to elite-level recruits, DJ Wagner and this season's Cooper Flagg. Okay? The results, though, on the floor have not been glorious. First season, she got bounced in the opening round against Miami Stars when it was then New England Select with Johnny Baldwin on the roster. Second season, DJ Wagner leads them all the way to the semifinals where they eventually fall to Beast of the East. Now, she's in the championship game with Cooper Flagg. She's always attracted top talent. Now, obviously, DJ Wagner and Cooper Flagg don't go there if there's not some interest in playing for Coach Alyssa Dodge. But now she's winning with it too, and winning it on a consistent basis. That's a very scary proposition because if you're a top recruit anywhere in the country, or specifically in that Northeast region, if you want to win basketball games and you want to develop, Coach Alyssa Dodge has proven, come to here, come on over, and we're going to show you how it's done. She's back into a championship level playing field after being one win away a season ago. Very few coaches can boast that, and very few coaches can boast the development track that she has had in her first 3 seasons at the helm. Second piece, the second storyline, is Christ Coates as the number 2. Similarly to Rocky Mountain, who have really developed players, Christ Coates has been absolutely fantastic. Okay? Since April 17th is when he started getting starter minutes. He's had only 2 games of less than 10 points and has shot 44% or better in all but 4 of those 11 games. He's showing signs of scoring, but he's also playmaking. He's had 3 or more assists in 8 of 11 games, including a fantastic 14-assist game. Again, the importance of finding guys on your roster who can be efficient playmakers, scorers, or anything else is so easy to do when you just say it's time to do that. I have said this multiple times. Coaches should have the opportunity and have the comfortability of saying, okay, I can win games with this, but can I get anything else with that? I think it's a big reason, and it's part of why I wasn't overly disturbed by the reigning Trey's head coaching decision, because we were too focused on Japheth Towns. Towns is fantastic. He's a top recruit. But what else do you have? And you're doing a disservice to the rest of your roster when you don't do that. Coach Alyssa Dodge has found that in Christ Coates, and that development of a bona fide number 2 guy has been a huge part of why this team is completely different than the one that I said on a Marsh Mobile could not win the championship because they were reliant on 1 star. Simply put, they're not reliant on 1 star anymore. And then the last storyline is Cooper Flagg. Nobody has an answer for him. Nobody has an answer for him. The first 2 rounds, he was kind of dwiddling around for the first 3 quarters. The last 2 rounds, he has been going at it from the jump. Not even the Defensive Player of the Year, which, hey, we've talked about. I don't believe that blocks and rebounds should be what we decide as Defensive Player of the Year, and that's what Josiah Cook was dominant at. And he got torched by Cooper Flagg time and time again. So the story is, what are we going to see? Is it going to be Justin Bell? Is it going to be Lucas Banks? Is it going to be Devontae Schindler on him? Is it going to be somebody else that plays him? Because so far, quite literally, nobody has had the answer for Cooper Flagg in this game, in SimWorld Prep, in Run to One. He's been absolutely incredible. Those are the stories that I'm looking at, that we've seen. The outcome is going to be fantastic, right? It's going to be, did Cooper Flagg, is he good enough to be buck the trend? You can actually get a 1-guy show. Again, I don't think that's true. 2, Coach Dodge, top recruits. Why aren't you going there? What's the future of Josh Robinson if he can get a championship win? We're going to get a lot of answers. But so far, the stories have been fantastic. We'll catch you on Monday as we recap it all on SimWorld today, and of course on the Marsh Pod. I appreciate you tuning in for a little special edition, and we'll talk to you soon.